Hi, everyone, and welcome to Inventor's LaunchPad Roadmap to Success. I am Carmine Dinisco, your host. And today on the LaunchPad, we have a special guest. She's not only an entrepreneur and a business owner, but she is an expert in holistic corrective exercise. I'm going to read some of the things that I wrote down in order to introduce her because there was so many things. She works with nutrition and lifestyle coaching. She's pulled together several styles to integrate different healing therapies. She has a bachelor's degree in wellness from the University of South Florida. She's worked with and taught for some of the most respected companies in the health and wellness field. She's also been a Nike advisor. She's trained with Title Performance Institute, not only competed in triathlons, but actually 5 Ironman competitions, as well as a Fitness America pageant. Her name is Ashley Mazurek, and I have her on the line now. Hey, Ashley, are you over there?
Hey, Carmine.
Hi, thanks for being on the show today. I know that was a little bit of a long intro. You've done so much, and I know you're busy. I want you to have you on the show for a number of reasons, personal on my end and also for our listeners. And again, can you give us a little bit of your background? I went through the intro, but how did you get into this? And it seems like you've been doing this for a long time.
Well, I have been doing this for a long time. At least I feel like I have, about 26 years. And I started in the health and fitness industry back in 1990. And I started by teaching group exercise. And for me, I've always been active, always been an athlete, a dancer. And that sort of sparked a transition from high school into college. And at the time, trying to figure out what I wanted to do, which I thought I knew. But once I started teaching at a Bally's Health Club and then started working on the floor, I fell in love with health and fitness and the opportunity to service and help people be better. And so from there, it's kind of spawned off into every different facet of the health and fitness industry. I feel like I've done it all, which I know that I haven't, but I just feel that way. And for about 17 years, I actually have been most focused on the holistic side, or you could say integrative aspect of health and fitness as it applies to helping people become stronger, healthier, and just overall increasing their vitality to live this that they choose to.
And I know that my listeners are probably wondering why I've invited you on the show, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. My question for you, something you mentioned, what do you mean by holistic?
Yeah, holistic can mean lots of different things. And sometimes clients will say, you're not going to get all foo-foo on me, or you're not going to get all woo-woo on me. And no, it can mean lots of different things. We could talk about the spiritual aspect of dysfunction, or we could just talk about how the root of your issue, your chronic pain or persistent pain, as we call it now, why it's happening. And it's always about the why, and it's always about getting to the root cause. So rather than saying holistic, we could say the integrated approach. So at the end of the day, the question is why. And for me, the holistic approach would be, as a practitioner, is answering that question why. Because a lot of people go from doctor, therapist, surgeon, whatever it is, massage therapist, acupuncture therapist, and they don't know why they're in pain. They're just getting treatment after treatment, and the pain still persists. So for me, I'm like, that's going to stop right here, and we're going to find the root behind it. And whatever that may be, whether it's the mental, emotional side or aspect that Dr. Sarno talks about in his books, whether it's the visceral component that reflects into the musculoskeletal system, which causes an inhibition, which causes compensation, which ultimately can cause an inflammatory response, which leads to pain. But I've never in my career thus far have been unable to find the root cause and hopefully get somebody out of pain into a healthier place. And I think that's just to a service of education. I'm a big education person. I love learning about this field. There's so much to learn. And part of being a clinician, a practitioner, I'm also an educator. So I teach this part of the modality of what I do all around the world to practitioners who want to be like myself. And then I also am a big educator with my clients, because I don't really want people dependent on me getting out of pain. I want them to understand why and how they got there. And typically what happens and what you do to your body prior to the age of 40 years old will be indicative of what happens after the age of 40. And typically you'll start to see the symptoms. So it's it's a mystery. And I love what I do because I love the challenge and the mystery behind it.
Well, from the people I've talked to about you, and that's what brought you over to the show today, you are amazing at what you do. And being able to peel those roots back and find out what the root cause is something that, as you said, a lot of people don't have the ability to do that. And I know that you work with clients from all over the world, C-level executives, as well as professional sports and athletes and things in that sense. And as I said earlier, one of the reasons I wanted you on the show, I'm going to get to that right now, is that here, as you know, and I think you're a listener to the show, as you mentioned, is our people are entrepreneurs, they're inventors, they're innovators. And even myself, we tend to push ourselves past the limit. I sometimes experience pain or headaches or lack of sleep. I probably don't eat right. I don't drink enough water, or I'm pushing myself too far because I'm trying to get to that next step, that next level. And we have a lot of inventors and business owners that are experiencing some of these things. And I wanted to try to pick your brain and figure out not only what that is doing to our chances of success by doing the things that we're doing that probably aren't right, and our brains and our body are feeling that, and then also how we might be able to mitigate those things and maybe feel the differences.
Well, that's a loaded question. So I might have to ask you to remind me all of that a little bit later.
Okay.
I try to think only in the present moment, and that's because I can't remember.
Okay.
So how I'm going to start with your particular question is, when you asked me to be on the show, and I do listen to your podcast, I was like, why would you have me on the show? Like, what? I'm not an inventor. I do have a couple of ideas, but it seemed odd. But as you had pointed out, everybody needs some of the knowledge that you have, and everybody strives to be better in some way. And that would mean everyone wants to have energy. Everyone wants to have stamina. Everyone wants to feel like they can conquer their task list for the day, including myself. There's always 20 things on the task list, and I strive to get the 20 completed, but sometimes can only conquer the 10, and that's okay. So part of that is, don't put so much on yourself that you become, how do I say this, over judgmental of self, and then ultimately create all this guilt and shame on how unproductive you may be in the day. Now that's another aspect. Let's get what I think of what you're asking me. And that is, what are some tips that I can give your listeners that are really simple tips that you do already? I just maybe refine them and make them better options. And that's one is, yes, headaches sometimes can caused by dehydration. Not all headaches, not every headache, but sometimes a headache can be because you're dehydrated, you're not getting enough water in your system. It also can lead to mental fatigue. So if you're trying to be astute and create novel solutions for problems, then you need that mind to be creative and be able to function at its best. And so being hydrated with good water, good quality water, is very important. And the basic behind that would be, the body needs, on an average, half of its body weight in ounces. Okay, so an easy example would be, if I was dealing with somebody who was 200 pounds, they would need 100 ounces of water per day. Now, for some, that seems like quite a lot. And And it may be because you're just not used to it. And your body over time, you don't automatically go out tomorrow and start drinking 100 ounces. Slowly you build your kidneys to the capability of taking on that much water, and you increase maybe by 10 ounces. And make sure that your water is good quality water. The best water that I know out there, the that has enough solutes in it or minerals, which your body needs to hold on to the water, is Avion. The second best is Fiji. Below that, we're dealing with a water that's somewhere in the nature of like a tap water, which, if you do enough testings and research on it, it's not very healthy, and sometimes can be what we call an acidic water, which you're drinking an acidic water when you drink maybe 10 ounces of water, 8 ounces right when you get up, and within 15 minutes, you have to go to the bathroom. Chances are when you're drinking water and you're having to go to the bathroom all the time, the water may need a lot more balance to it, maybe a more alkaline. Do I believe in alkaline water? Maybe. Depends on the quality. So some tips for that, which is kind of the goal for somebody like myself as a coach, is giving you modifications, giving you recommended, like, how in the world am I going to drink 100 ounces? Are you kidding me? I only drink potentially 20 ounces right now, which can be kind of scary. And I always say to my clients, you're about to feel really good now, because this water is going to give you so much energy. It's going to help you break down fat. It's going to help you think clearer. And so I would start out with a regimen, and it does require a little bit of structure. Get up in the morning, drink your 6 to 8 ounces, and then midway through the morning, drink another 6 to 8 ounces. Then 15 minutes to a half hour after your lunch, drink another 6 to 8 ounces until you can reach your requirement. And right around 6 p.m., I would start declining in that, because as you'll probably already jumped the gun and realized that if you drink too much at night, you end up going to the bathroom all night, and that doesn't help you get a good amount of sleep, which is probably my next line item for recommendations, and that would be to get enough sleep. Sleep is so very important for the body to recover itself, to recoup from the stress in the day or the previous day. So they always say, get about 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. And that's very true. And what I would say is it also depends on each individual person. Okay, so some people can get by hours, and that's fine. And some people need, like myself, I would need around 8 or 9, and I feel comfortable. So you have to play with what makes you feel comfortable in the morning, where you wake up to the point where you're ready to start your day. If you wake up and you're groggy and you're foggy and you're tired, chances are you didn't get enough of sleep, or I would recommend investigating why you feel that way, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So the other aspect of sleep that I want to go into is there is our natural circadian rhythms. And no matter if you live in Europe, whether you live in Australia, whether you live in New Zealand, or you live in the US of A, there is the optimal time frames of about 10 p.m. segments in the 10 o'clock to 2 a.m. is where you get your physical recovery. And from 2 a.m. to 6 p.m. is where you get your psychological recovery. So what I'm saying to you, and what oftentimes happens with clients that are in physical persistent pain, is they don't sleep very well, and they don't get to bed as early as they should. So if you're going to bed at midnight or 1 a.m., can you see how you miss 2 to 3 hours of the optimal time to repair your physical body? And so that's a really important aspect of feeling really good and healthy and repairing your body when it needs to. Okay, you got all that on mind?
I have it. I didn't know my question was going to make me think so much about what I do. But go ahead if you want to. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so that's the point. Is the point of this? What I tell to my clients is this is a journey of self-discovery. you're about to learn. It's all about you. It's all about discovering who you are and what your body needs. And part of doing that is paying attention to your body. For instance, it's really not normal to fart and burp and have little ticks, little gurgles in your throat all the time. That is not normal. And, it's important for people to know that, because, they'll often say, oh, well, I always do that. And a case and example would be when I was on a flight, because I do travel a lot. I was on a flight and a gentleman just ate this. I'm not really sure what it was. I think it was like some sort of sandwich. It had cheese and all this stuff on it. And soon after, about 10 minutes after he ate it, the entire 2-hour flight, he was like this, and it had a lot of mucus. Now, because I'd been doing this for a long time and I've been working with a lot of clients with these types of issues, I instantly knew that his body was rejecting dairy, because dairy, typically you get a lot of mucus filled up, you get a stuffy nose, or you constantly have to clear your throat. And, there was part of me that just wanted to bend over and say, hey, do you know that dairy doesn't serve your body? And so my point is listen to your body, because it can't talk to you, but it can give you lots of symptoms. And if you've gotten to the point where you're in persistent pain, your body's been telling you for a long time that something not good has been going on and you just haven't been paying attention. So that would be something that I would suggest. I would also suggest moving your body. And whether that be a workout type of exercise or work-in type of exercise. And what I mean by that is not everybody is able to go out and run 5 miles, walk 5 miles, or even ride for 35, 45 minutes or to an hour. That may be a lot. And if you have a lot of stress, whether it's internal stress or external stress, you have to evaluate how you feel. And I always say, well, what does it feel like to you when I say work out? It was, oh my God, that just makes me tired thinking about it. And I was like, oh, well, then what we may need based off of all the paperwork that comes back to me, I determine whether they really need to stress their body, break it down with a catabolic/workout program. It may be what they need is a workout program, a work-in program, which means something very simple, which it would be simply going for a relaxing type walk in nature, preferably, or just at a slow, moderate place where they can think about their breath and just kind of diffuse all the stress that they have incurred in their day. And it may be something like Tai Chi or a very simple meditative type yoga. That would be more of a work-in, where actually what you do is that you accumulate energy. Working out expends energy. And it's important that when you do finish your work-in, you should feel energized. You feel good. You feel relaxed. And that's the biggest thing that I would suggest as far as moving your body, because part of moving means pumping, and part of pumping means detoxifying. And because we have so many stressors that surround us, we have to do something with our body to mitigate and get all those stressors to some degree out of our body and do the best we can with what we've got. And so the last thing that I would suggest, and I know I've been talking quite a bit here, I'm very passionate about what I do. And so I get excited, or I tend to talk really fast, or I tend to not take a breath. So stop me if you need to, or interrupt. But the last thing would be to watch what you eat. Food is so important. I could talk for hours on it, literally hours.
No, stop that.
Yeah, I'm just on food alone. But if I could recommend something simple, sort of simple, is try to eat foods that are whole food in nature. Okay, so something that God created, and in our program, one of the phrases that we use are, if it wasn't here 10,000 years ago, don't eat it. Some people look at me like I'm crazy. So to make it even simpler, sticking with fruits and vegetables and meats and fats, that would be the primary thing and to stick with, and staying away from packaged stuff, processed stuff, because a lot of those additives, a lot of those synthetic items put in our foods could create what we call gut inflammers. And basically it can make your tummy not feel so good. And it could create that belching or farting type of thing, or make you feel really gassy or full. But the symptom you'll have is, I'm really full, but I don't feel satiated. And that's really important. Part of the aspect of whole foods and non-whole foods, we call them denatured foods. Denatured foods are foods that are, like I said, are packaged or processed. And these foods actually pull energy from our body. They use our reserves and our nutrients in our body to assimilate it, process it, and eliminate it. And so what that does is it leads somebody to feel tired after they eat. You know, when you eat, if you're eating energy, nutrients, vitamins and minerals, the good stuff, you should feel pretty peppy and energized afterwards. You shouldn't feel heavy, tired, and like you want to go to sleep. And so it's oftentimes a really good idea to pay attention to that. And there are lots of sources out there. The Metabolic Typing Diet by Dr. Walcott and Trish Fahey is an excellent book. Eat, Move, and Be Healthy by Paul Chek is another excellent book that really does a great job of explaining these types of things. And, you know, oftentimes you can get things on the internet that can really give a lot of great information, but you have to be really careful about what you read. And so those are some really good tips that I feel are on a kind of beginner scale for people to begin doing. And you know, you already drink something, so my suggestion is drink water. And you already eat. My suggestion is to eat a little bit better. And you already sleep, but maybe juggle that a little, modify that just a little bit. I have had clients that, you know, frankly, their whole life they've gone to bed at 1, 2, and 3 in the morning. And it hasn't served them, obviously, because they're coming to see me. But what we do is we, you know, take it step by step and day by day. It's baby steps with this process, always.
Yeah, that's some great information. As you were speaking, I'm thinking back to my experiences, and you probably get this a lot. I'm actually thinking about some of the things I ate and how I felt after I ate them. And it rings a bell. And you get so used to those feelings after you eat that you think it's normal. And now that you're mentioning this, I realize that it's not normal. So drinking more water is so important, and eating good food and eating the right food. It just sounds to me like it's not one size fits all. Like you see these diets out there. It seems like everyone's different. The way you're explaining it is it's specific to each person, and you have to know your own body.
It's very, very individualized. And what I would say to that is we are as different on the inside as we are on the outside. There's about 1,500 books on nutrition and diets. And what that means to me is that they haven't nailed it yet. And that's because there's no perfect canned diet for a one size fits all in this industry. And just because, I mean, even in your own family, you can be so diverse in the nature of consumption of vitamins and minerals that just because I eat a certain way and it helps me doesn't mean my sister or my brother or my mom are going to get the success that I did. So it is very individualized and personalized. And previous to your question and how we can relate to the listeners that are hearing this, especially because we talk about inventions, but for everyone who's trying to diligently work very hard to succeed at getting their inventions out there and being on phone calls and talking to people. And sometimes the stress, the mental fatigue can, you have hard time coming up with the right words or coming off as a person who really knows and is really invested and is excited about their work. And at times we can become depressed if we don't get the call or the answer or the response that they want. So eating helps you stay balanced and positive and enthusiastic about life, whether it's a no or whether it's a yes. And that's one thing that I can say to your listeners that are really maybe like, wow, I'd be more interested in hearing about inventions. This diet, health, nutrition industry is an industry that really can help anyone.
Yeah, well, I totally agree. And I think that, people say that you got to be sharp, you got to stay sharp. And just knowing about your product, your company, your business is one thing. But if you can't think and your mind is foggy, you haven't got enough sleep, and you've been striving for the last 5 years for that one big break, and somebody hands it to you, and all of a sudden your mind goes blank or you're tired and you can't think straight, what Ashley's talking about is this is going to allow you to get your big break. You can't have a big break if you can't think straight, if you can't function during that elevator pitch, or if somebody's asking you an important question and you can't remember the answer. So eating right, drinking water, sleeping is what she's saying is probably the most important thing to be successful. And just real quick, Ash, I know you have a hard stop and the information you're giving us. So one quick question I have for you, and this is something that I have noticed, it took me a little while, is when I'm thinking of something or I can't come up with an answer, I'm working on a project or working on an invention for one of our clients, I find that when I go ride my bike or I do some exercise, it seems like the answer to the problem becomes a lot clearer or it pops into my head. Why is that?
Well, I think that part of the idea of when I was talking about moving and the aspect of pumping releases endorphins, and it's sort of like, in other words, specifically the bike, the repetitive riding is like a meditation. And don't forget too that I will try not to get a little technical here, but the process of breathing is so underrated. And when you're exercising or moving or doing something that requires your body to resist gravity, there is a process of the breath that basically we call it imbibition, and it has to do with also the cerebral spinal fluid that is in your spinal column, that it's rushed to the brain and back down through the spine to nourish and feed the nerves that give you that kind of rush, that give you that sympathetic response, that give you that ability to be excited and to be on your toes and to think fast and come up with those creative ideas. And so the answer that I would say simply is because you're moving and you're creating that sort of meditative process that allows your mind to either let go, which don't forget that when we're always thinking, the mind is always going. And when you're able to just release that constant thought and just relax it, you can create a lot of ideas that can come from, greater source is what we'd say in our industry. So it comes from up above, whether it's, I don't know, whether it's God or Great Spirit or whatever you want to believe in, but it comes from another source. And when you're always thinking about the same thing, then you don't have the ability to stop the mind and have a creative idea come through. And then, again, the other aspect would be the fact that the breath is really increased and able to have the spine pump more due to that breath. And then because the breath then stimulates the pump, their cerebral spinal fluid and then the nourishing of the discs and the nerves get their nourishment. So that's really, really important from the aspect of moving your body. And I think that would be the best answer that I could give you in relation to your question.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It makes sense a lot. And that's something that I have experienced multiple occasions is that, I think, like you said, my mind was just in this loop trying to come up with an answer for a product or an idea, and I just couldn't come up with it. And then once I did some exercise or I started doing something, I was thinking about something else. And it has happened several times. And I just thought you'd be able to make sense of it. And I understand exactly what you're saying about that. Now, I know that you have executives that come to you, people from all over the world. And one thing I have asked other executives and people who seem like they're successful, there are obviously many forms of success that people look at, but it seems like upper level executives, people that are very successful, one thing I notice about them is that they seem to always work out. They seem to always be moving, as you said, and thinking or doing something. I don't know if they eat well or drink enough water or something, but they always seem to be in some kind of shape. Maybe to you, they're not as in shape as they need to be, but it seems like they are. And I could see now, and I don't know if you agree with me, that you need to be healthy to really, it's hard to say. You need to be healthy to be able to make the right decisions, to be able to take advantage of opportunities when they come.
I wouldn't necessarily judge that anybody isn't as healthy as they should be. I think everybody is exactly where they need to be in life, whether it's in pain or not in pain, miserable, depressed. I think there is no judgment whatsoever. I feel that there are a lot of executives, a lot of business owners that I have seen that value the importance of health and fitness in their life. And, we're always working at the level that we can. Hopefully we're always striving to be better. We're always looking to reflect on our today or yesterday so that we can move forward the next day. Now, I feel like the importance of anyone at a higher level or trying to achieve success in their life, part of getting there and being happy with yourself in your success is living a balanced life. And part of living a balanced life creates this sense of peace and happiness inside of you. Because I feel the road to that, creating peace and happiness wherever you're at and just striving to be better and happy at that point, is about being healthy. Okay. If you're working all the time, 100% of your day is work, and you don't concentrate on you and what makes you happy and what makes you healthy, then your level of balance, meaning your sympathetic versus parasympathetic, the balance in your body becomes out of balance, and you can become reactive versus responsive. And so people who are very successful are very responsive. They exude a balance, and that's because they're in some regards they're forced to, because they've got so much stress in their life. And when you're that catabolic or that sympathetic or that stressed, for that matter, life is not fun, life is not happy, and there is no sense of peace inside of you. And I do believe that every person that's living on this earth ultimately is striving for peace and happiness. And I don't believe, because I've experienced this with many millionaires out there are people that will come into my office who have the jets, have 10 cars all over the world, but don't have peace and happiness. Okay. So now it's about going backwards and finding that and discovering that. And that's just about going within and creating that for yourself. They've got all the other stuff. But it's the inner work that needs to be done. And that's a very, very fun aspect of what I do. So going back to you, if we're climbing the ladder, people that are trying to become successful, they're trying to get their inventions out there, they're trying to make money to survive or secure their family, then with all that pressure, it's really important that you take at least an hour or two out of your day to focus on being able to handle all of that stress and being successful at dealing with it by staying balanced in yourself. And that is drinking water, getting good sleep, eating whole foods, and moving. And I think that is 4 easy things. But at the end of the day, and I hear it all on social media and the TV, the buzzword is balance. It's all about balance. And I do agree with that. And it's interesting that years and years ago, when I was to come up with, once I closed my wellness center down and I started to downgrade my business, I wanted to come up with a new name that was more attached to who I was in that moment, because, we all evolve and change. And instantly came to me once I started thinking about it, was Balanced Body. And that's the name of my company. And for what I do, it's actually the most perfect name I could ever think of as to what I do and what I recommend for everyone.
Well, it's certainly a good name. There's no doubt about it. It fits everything you've been talking about. And if there was on any of our listeners who are wondering why we brought you on the show today, just the last phrases will explain it. Real question, then we got to get to closing out. Damn it. If I had a client or myself and I needed to prepare, say, a week in advance for the biggest pitch of my life, and I had an appointment to pitch my product to whom I was preparing, and they gave me a week to do it. I hadn't really been eating too healthy. I've been burnt out from studying my invention and working hard. What should I do for that week? Would you recommend? Obviously, I can't turn my whole life around, but what would be a quick 3 tips you would give me?
Well, that's easy. I would just reiterate what I just already said. I would say, first of all, you didn't give me a lot of time, but at least you gave me some time. So for the next 7 days, I would take value in those 4 tips. And I would, at the level that they can, at the level that they want, with everything else that's going on, I would focus on their sleep. I would focus on getting a little relaxation, movement in their body. And I would address whole foods to the level that they can, and the water. And what's always very interesting, because you get personality types, and those that can commit to doing a little bit of those 4 items see a miraculous change. It's always interesting, because when clients say that, they come and say, I need help with this and this. And I think the process of what we're going to do with you is going to be like that plus 50 other things that are going to be the ramifications. If you can do a couple little things to change your life, that we've already said, not that hard. If you can do those 4 things consistently and make progressive changes when you can, you'll see a big difference. Mm-hmm. And I would be very interested to see how the pitch went after doing as much as they could in that 7 days with those 4 items.
Well, yeah, I would love to have some of our listeners give us some feedback if they implement some of these changes that Ashley has been talking about. Ashley, we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about you and your practice, and we're going to kind of wrap up. So my question would be since everyone's listening, who would be your kind of target client?
Well, my target client is pretty much anyone who is looking to be better, grow, be healthier. The biggest referral client that I get is somebody who's in chronic pain.
Mm.
And I've just, over the many years, have created such a referral system with getting people out of pain, and specifically lower back pain, SI joint pain. There's always the shoulder pain, the neck pain, and all that. But anybody who's in any kind of pain, or anybody who's looking to dissect and figure out why they've got some sort of autoimmune disease, which is a pretty simple case, and a big educational sector. Fatigue, somebody who's wondering why they're always fatigued, or just as simple as somebody just trying to find their purpose in life, trying to figure out what they should do with their life. I would say the majority of my clients have been chronic pain. And I always have my feelers out to my practitioners that refer to me. I typically get the challenging cases, the difficult ones, and that's the ones I enjoy, because this is fun to me, not the mystery. And people can read about myself on my website. If you're looking like, what else about this girl? Let me see what she's all about. You can always go to my website. It's www.balancedbod.com. So we took the Y off the body and balanced bod because body wasn't available. That's a place that you can visit my website and find out a lot about me and my services and their fees. And I do a lot of mentoring with practitioners. And I do a lot of Skype coaching, and I also have my clinic in Tampa that I have people see me, where we need to work on issues with their body and so forth.
Wow, that's one of the great things about this. So you're able to help people through video conferencing, which is awesome, because some people might not be able to even get out to you in the Tampa area. And I know prior we were talking before we started the interview about some pain mitigation things, and that you were actually helping people avoid surgeries and back surgeries, which I thought was fantastic, because I am a firm believer that those back surgeries are very, very, very small amounts may be successful.
Yes, and you're absolutely correct. So far, I'm 100% on the people that have come to me that were supposed to get back surgeries, supposed to get hip surgeries, and we were able to alleviate that through corrective programs and getting to the source, and then following that program through my oversight, and we were able to help with that. So I'm very, very grateful for. I wouldn't say that it's all me. I always tell clients, you're the one that has to do the work. I'm just giving you the information. So, you have the hardest job. I'll just coach you through it and give you what you need to be successful.
Wow. Well, Ashley's definitely underestimating how important she is in the process. And just from hearing about all the great, wonderful things she does with her clients, I appreciate you being on the show today and giving up some of your time to, help some of our listeners. Our listeners, I'm sure, are, and I don't want to use the word suffering, but experiencing a lot of the things that all of us inventors, entrepreneurs, and innovators face, so whether it's health issues, pain from leaning over your computers all day, or whatever it is. Nutrition is so important, and being healthy in this field. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show today. I know it didn't really fit in, and a lot of our listeners were saying, why is she on the show? But now I'm hoping that they realize how important being in good health is when you're trying to be successful. I think it's one of the most important things that they can be is healthy. So balancedbod.com, Ashley Mazurek, look her up on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Definitely visit her website. Send us some notes, send us some questions. If you send them on our website, Internet Inventors LaunchPad, send them over to us. We'll make sure we get them over to Ashley. But certainly if you have some questions, or you need to ask Ashley anything, or maybe you need her help, don't hesitate to go to her website, contact her, because I can almost guarantee that she will be helpful to whatever your needs are. Ashley, I say it again, thank you very much for being on the show today, and we look forward to maybe getting you back here down the road.
Well, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate you. I mean, what an honor for me to speak and help anyone that I possibly can. And good luck to you. And yeah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you. You take care. Bye.